Most people don't fit into a perfect persona that has been created for the left or the right. Most people have a big spectrum of beliefs. There's a reason they're a little more left on this thought, and there's a reason they're a little more right on this thought. So you really can't jump to a conclusion about a person because something is true about them. Welcome back to Happiness in Progress. I'm your host, Danielle Craig. I'm an Emmy Award-winning journalist, a mom, wife, and you know what I like to say, just a person looking for more joy in the everyday. This podcast is brought to you by the Mail Tribune. You can find more podcasts at mailtribune.com. Don't forget to subscribe, please, if you like listening. I have a lot of good stuff for you this month. Please just hit that subscribe button. All right, let's get to the good stuff. Today we are talking about something that a lot of us, I think, are coming up against in our daily lives right now, and that is talking to people we disagree with. I know it can be hard, and especially now when tensions are so high and politics are the thing we're disagreeing about. I'm not only talking about politics here. I'm going to give some different examples as we go through the episode, but I think this will help you in those political discussions and also throughout your life. The first thing I want to talk about, the number one rule, I'm going to give you three. The number one rule for talking to someone you disagree with is to come at the conversation for learning. Look for learning instead of trying to teach someone something, trying to make someone think the same as you. When you enter a conversation for learning, it changes everything. Of course, I know this as a journalist. When I was reporting, I would have to sit and listen. I spent most of my life talking, and journalism and reporting really helped me hone in on the skill of listening and how valuable that is. Because when you listen, you get to learn someone else's life perspective. And I had to for news. I had to learn someone's perspective because I needed to then share it in a story. When I was a freshman in college, I had this group of friends that loved talking politics. Some of us were in Young Republicans, some of us were in Young Democrats, but we would all come together and just sit on these picnic benches and picnic tables next to this little football field where we would just talk politics and policies and ideas for the future and theories of what was the best thing to do about this and about that and about war and what should have happened here and where money should be spent. And we would just talk and talk all night. And it was so interesting because when I look back to those conversations, there's very few conversations I've had like it. And I think the reason is we were young, we were just out of our parents' homes, and we were interested in learning. We'd learned what our parents believed. And for a lot of us, that's why we were in either Young Republicans or Young Democrats, because our parents were old Republicans and old Democrats. But in this opportunity and in this conversation, we were just learning. We were just really fascinated with what the people on the other side thought. And it was incredible. And I think a lot of us, not even trying to debate each other out of our own ideals, we just started to see one another's sides. We started to gain more perspective, and we enjoyed learning about why things were important to people. And so I think that's why it's so important to go in a conversation with differences, whether that's politics, whether that's religion, whether that is any other sticking point in your life where you have a fundamental difference in thinking with someone, where you just listen. Listen to learn. Don't listen to debate and to change someone's idea, because then it's a debate, it's not a conversation, and then you're going to get those really high, tense, toxic conversation that maybe you don't want to be part of. If you don't want to be part of a conversation like that, you don't have to be. In fact, I have a couple of episodes on boundaries, and I will put them in the show notes so you can go to them, because maybe it's a conversation you don't want to have at all. When I was, 5 years after those romanticized college political conversations, I was working in a newsroom, and I publicly said my idea about something, about actually one of the presidential candidates running. And it was just that I liked one of the candidates more than another. And one of my fellow producers looked at me and said, "How do you sleep at night? How do you live with yourself?" And I was like, oh my gosh, this is not a conversation we can have, is it? It's just not, because you're not here to learn. And I thought I was about to have one of these amazing conversations but I can't have an opinion here. And I think that you really do need to. So you have a couple of options here. One, if you're going in for learning, you can go in for learning and have a conversation that way. But two, if you know another person is not going in for learning and they just want to debate you and tell you you're a horrible human being for your opinions, which you're not, because that's just ridiculous. If they are trying to make you feel that way, that's when you need the boundaries. So go check out those show notes. I've got some exit strategies and also boundaries where you literally say, I'm not having this conversation with you. Okay, number 2, if you want to talk to someone who thinks differently than you, do not do it online. Do it in person. Talk to one another where you can have an exchange and you can hear tone, inflection, and you can see the facial expressions on a person's face. I think that matters because when you talk to someone and you see them as a human, that's different than when you're talking to someone over the internet. You can't hear tone. Everything that disagrees with you is coming at you in a mean, sarcastic, rude tone. And you also don't have the opportunity to see the person as a person. When they're talking about their heartfelt ideas about why this impacts them and why that doesn't impact them, you don't see the tears in their eyes. You don't see the struggle. You don't see the fidgeting of the hands because they don't know what to do about this and about that. And it really dehumanizes people when we're talking to them online. Recently, I was online and I saw that one of my friends was really being bullied about their political beliefs. And the conversation back and forth was not friendly. It wasn't really okay. So I butt in and, maybe you shouldn't butt in, but this is what I did. And I said, hey, you guys really might want to think about defriending each other because of the lack of respect that is here. And at that point, the guy who was just trolling my friend said, No, I love him. I would do anything for him. I would die for him. I'm just giving him a hard time. And I was shocked. And come to find out, my friend was shocked as well and sent me a message saying, what in the world? I thought this guy was being really, really mean to me. So I think the lesson here is that our inflection, if we're just joking around, if we're, elbowing someone in the ribs and saying, oh yeah, I just think you're the worst. That's different than when it's in a message and you literally are just reading it with your own tone that you think the person is taking on. Just don't do the politics online. I've made the mistake myself. It's just not worth it. In fact, I posted something a little more political than I normally do on my personal Facebook page, and my brother-in-law was sending me comments and kind of jabbing me in the side, and I sent my sister a message, hey, does he hate me? And he's like, oh, no, I don't. I was just interested. I was just trying to have a conversation. And that's the difference. I think that we, as humans, we don't see that it's just a conversation, that we're just talking when it's over the internet, because we're just reading words that aren't connected to a face that we can look at and see and connect with. We're just reading words and the inflection that we're putting on them. Okay, number 3, say what you think. Start your sentences with I think, I believe, I feel. Try to do that instead of saying how you think the other person you're talking to feels. So that means instead of saying you think, you believe, you say, you would say something like, I think, I believe, I feel. You can even, just in me saying that without any examples on the end, you can see how that feels different. I feel, I think, I believe is different than the accusatory tone that comes with you think, you feel, you believe. It's just not okay. I've seen this a lot in, for instance, religion. If I'm going about my day and I am drinking, let's say, caffeine, and someone comes up to me and says, you can't drink caffeine. I'm like, well, I am drinking caffeine though. That's not accurate. I think we see that a lot in our lives. And the other thing we do is we create these caricatures specifically in politics. We create these caricatures and personas of what a Republican is and what a Democrat is. I actually read an op-ed. I think it was Washington Post, could have been New York Times. I can't recall. If I can find it, I'll put it in show notes. But in this op-ed, she said, we've created caricatures where Republicans are rich and old and Democrats are godless and gay. Those were her words. And on either side, we have only 10% who are very Democrat, 10% who are very Republican. And what occurs is, because we've created these totally false personas of people, and we expect them to all fit into one little persona depending on if they are generally a Democrat or generally a Republican, what occurs is when they have one thought. So let's say you've got someone talking and they're like, oh, I just loved so-and-so Adams from this party, and I love that he did this. Then if you're talking to someone and their response is, oh, so you think everyone from so-and-so Adams party is the best? Is that what you're saying right now? That's just quite a leap to go, when really most people don't fit into a perfect persona that has been created for the left or the right. Most people have a big spectrum of beliefs. There's a reason they're a little more left on this thought, and there's a reason they're a little more right on this thought. So you really can't jump to a conclusion about a person because something is true about them. With that said, when you go to just saying what you believe, and this is an old thing we've learned for years and years in couples therapy, marriage therapy, when two people have to sit and talk to one another, starting with those I statements is really powerful. I say, I believe, I feel, instead of that accusatory tone that comes with you think, you feel, you say, you do. It's easy. It's as easy as that, just starting with the I instead of telling them what they think. So those are the three things. One, go to the conversation for learning, not to debate or to convince someone of something. Unless that's what you want to do and you're both in it for a debate, that's fine. Some people really like debating. Number two, don't do it online. Three, say how you feel, I think, I believe. Use those I statements. And you know what? If you're in a conversation with someone who does not want to practice these three tips, who's accusing you of things and trying to convince you of stuff and doing it online, you don't have to be part of that conversation. In fact, I have some great conversations on boundaries. I will link them in show notes. One was a couple days last week, and it's really good about how to get an exit strategy to get out of there from that conversation. Another one that I will link is about how to have the conversation of, these are my boundaries, and if you can't stick with them, then we can't talk about this. So you can find both of those in show notes. And of course, I want to thank you for being here on Happiness and Progress. Don't forget to subscribe. In a couple days, on Thursday morning, you will see the coolest episode with a woman who teaches leadership to small business owners. But in this conversation, we are going to talk about how to lead yourself, lead your family, and lead your community as well.